And we're going to take a look back at Hurricane Ivan on its anniversary and remember the impacts it left across our Gulf Coast and the rest of the country. Plus, we take you around the globe to places that saw extreme weather events over the weekend.
Live on your side, First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
All right, welcome in everyone. First off, check out this scene from the Outer Banks of North Carolina as potential tropical cyclone 8 continues to bring heavy rainfall to the state. You can see the choppy waves and the clouds, and get this, nobody's out there in that water. So that's some good news. At least people listen to what those impacts were bringing from that tropical system. Well, welcome in everyone. I'm First Alert meteorologist Tania Michelle here. Let's not waste any time. I want to take you back along the East Coast. Here's a live look at our First Alert Sky Vision camera out at Myrtle Beach. Now, of course, this is parts of South Carolina. They have been seeing some impacts from that tropical storm, but the greatest impacts really occurred along North Carolina's coast. Here's a look at that First Alert Sky Vision camera. Temperatures in the mid to upper 60s, dew points also in the 60s. The waves still look a little choppy. I can tell you one thing, nobody's out there, so that tells you enough right there. Let's take a look at what potential tropical cyclone 8 is doing and where it's headed. Here's a look at the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center that came out at 4 p.m. Still impacting the coast, bringing some rip current threats, of course some heavy rain, but most of that wet weather has now pushed inland closer to the central portions of North Carolina, the northern portions of South Carolina. It's got maximum sustained winds right now at 35 miles per hour. So breezy and windy conditions are also another impact that the Carolinas are seeing. Over the next 24 hours or so, really by the time we reach our Tuesday afternoon, it's just going to become an area of low pressure. Still going to bring some rain to the Charlotte area and of course those gusty winds. But that's the next big thing that we're tracking, is what impacts will we see, and if any, from that system. And we are going to see impacts, but we're actually on the better side of those impacts. It's going to bring us a northerly wind. Notice how those winds are wrapping around that system. So we're going to get drier air building in here across central Alabama. Not a whole lot of wet weather. We're actually going to see a lot more sunshine. We could see some clouds trying to push in from that system as we approach later this week, mainly across north and northeast central Alabama. But to be honest, we're getting those fall-like conditions, again, sunshine and mild temperatures. So here's a look at that fall countdown, 6 days out. I know many of you are excited and have already been putting up that fall decor. It's 45 days away until Halloween. I've already been seeing the Halloween stuff in the store, and it's not going to be long until we start seeing Christmas stuff in the store. You already know how this goes. 73 days away until Thanksgiving, though, and I believe we're like 100 days away until Christmas. So if you're a really big holiday fan, the holidays are coming around faster than you can probably even count, okay? Here's a look at that First Alert AccuTrack satellite radar. Most areas are dry, especially in East Alabama. Still seeing a few showers in West Alabama there, especially down south and west. Some sprinkles on along I-20/59 in Sumter County, parts of Greene County, Hale County, and even the southern portions of Perry County, just south of Uniontown. So giving your area that first alert. Again, most areas dry. Most areas will stay dry throughout the rest of your evening. Temperatures in the 80s, 79 in Pell City, 80 degrees in Birmingham right now, 78 in Aliceville, Pickens County. Here's a look at that hour by hour forecast. Low 70s around 9 p.m., upper 60s around 11 o'clock, light easterly wind. Tomorrow morning, though, we could see some patchy fog around 7 a.m., low 60s, upper 70s around 11 o'clock, 3 p.m., mid 80s. Again, a little bit of decreased visibility early tomorrow morning. That's one of the things that I'm tracking, is some patchy morning fog, but we will be drying out, seeing 80s this week for your afternoon. And we are, of course, always watching the tropics. So that's a look at those weather headlines. We will have a look at that 7-day right here in Weather Extra coming up in just a bit. But all of this comes as flooding continues to impact parts of coastal North Carolina today. Double-digit rainfall totals were reported in parts of coastal North Carolina from potential tropical cyclone 8, including in Carolina Beach. Rainfall totals there are reported to be more than a foot in the beach's town. Roads were under 3 feet of water from flash flooding. The National Weather Service described as life threatening. And I mean, that's one of the things that tropical systems really do. They bring a lot of rain, a lot of wind to these areas, and that really causes destruction, from downed trees to, of course, flooding concerns. People have trouble commuting to work and to school. But I just wanted to show you just how much rainfall parts of North Carolina received. Of course, this is just north of South Carolina. So this is North Myrtle Beach, if you're familiar. There's Sunset Beach, but this is along the coast of Carolina Beach and Oak Island. 14.7 inches, and even some spots closer to 20 inches of rainfall. That tropical system literally brought so much rain and moisture from the ocean over into their area, causing flooding. But as we continue to talk about the tropics, today actually marks the anniversary of Ivan, which made landfall near the Gulf Coast on this day 20 years ago. Meteorologist Matt Daniel joins us now with a deep dive on why this was such an impactful system.
Did you know it's been 20 years since Hurricane Ivan struck the Alabama Gulf Coast, spreading lots of storm surge and wind, not only across the Alabama Gulf Coast, but of course the Florida Panhandle. This was the imagery of Ivan, by the way, from the International Space Station when it was a major hurricane. It was a long-lived storm, so to speak. It formed on September 3rd of 2004. It's one of those tropical waves that moved off the coast of Africa, eventually became a Category 5 hurricane in the Caribbean, and it made landfall in Gulf Shores 20 years ago today. It was in the early morning hours as a Category 3 hurricane with winds up to 120 miles per hour. We're talking about 57 deaths from this storm as it impacted not only the Gulf Coast, but also as it moved farther inland into parts of the Carolinas and into Virginia. And we're talking about $27 billion plus of damage in the United States. And it caused a lot of major impacts as well outside the U.S. 67 deaths from Ivan outside of the United States. A lot of them were those the islands in the Caribbean, including Jamaica. Even parts of Venezuela had some impacts as well. And this is also a storm that's known for its tornadoes, prolific amounts of tornadoes. I was in Georgia at the time, and I remember numerous tornado warnings in parts of north and central Georgia, and that tornado threat even spread even farther north into Virginia. And what's interesting is what was left of it actually looped around, moved through Florida, and then redeveloped in the Gulf, and it made another landfall in southwestern Louisiana back in September 23rd, and then it finally dissipated on the 24th. So pretty crazy to see. We haven't seen a storm quite like that in a while, but here it is, the track. When you start getting into green, it became a tropical storm, in yellow, a Category 1, and then you can see, based off the legend behind me, when you start seeing those purples, that was a major 4, Category 4 or 5 hurricane. So we went through the Windward Islands, impacted parts of Venezuela, strengthened and became an intense storm in the Caribbean, and then it moved just to the western portions of Cuba and then finally made its way into the Gulf Coast. So you can see that track. It weakened into a tropical storm as it moved through Jefferson and Shelby counties, the center of rotation. And of course, on the east side, we saw numerous tornado warnings, especially for parts of Georgia and into the Carolinas and even into Virginia. And then it looped back and then sort of redeveloped again in the Gulf as a tropical storm and made landfall as a tropical depression. So crazy stuff to see. We haven't seen anything like that in a while. And this is showing imagery from NOAA, and it's just how intense it was with a well-defined eye as it was moving in parts of the eastern Caribbean. This was back on September 8th of 2004. And here's satellite imagery showing that major hurricane impacting Baldwin County with winds up to 120 miles per hour. Pretty large storm, lots of impacts here. In fact, we got some video footage of Ivan that you can see. It produced storm surge, 8 to 12 feet. Also produced a lot of wind damage, flooding reports, tornado reports. Even parts of the, when it came ashore, it collapsed the Interstate 10 bridge across Escambia Bay and destroyed many state roads. So it also, like I said, tornado break in Virginia produced up to 38 tornadoes there, which ended up being one of the biggest outbreaks there for Virginia from a tropical system. And even 2004 was a crazy year when it came to the Atlantic hurricane season. We saw 5 storms that actually impacted Florida in just 6 weeks. So that was a nightmare year for Florida when it came came to hurricanes and tropical systems. Speaking of the Gulf Coast, I want to show you some before and after images of Gulf Shores. This is showing the visual of what it looked like at the Gulf Shores prior to Hurricane Ivan. And then after the storm moved through and produced some storm surge, you can see all the erosion off the beach, all the damage across the region. And we're talking about a $1 billion disaster in parts of those areas. And like I said, we had impacts here locally. You can see a large tree down, damage home near Birmingham Airport. We even had a little bit of a mudslide with a lot of heavy rain and gusty winds, and of course numerous power outages. But thankfully we didn't see any fatalities when it came to Ivan here, but a lot of great information helped save lives, informing people of those impacts. But of course did it cause some deaths and issues in other parts of the country and of course in the Caribbean. But it's been 20 years since Hurricane Ivan.
And after heavy rainfall over the weekend, we want to show you these photos sent in from viewers of damage to their area. Meredith Fields shows a fallen tree in Alabaster. We also have a photo that was sent in from Stephanie of a fallen tree in Adamsville. Hannah Giles shows the strong wind that pulls off the siding of a mobile home. Oh my goodness, look at that. Even some small hail there from Emily Sanders in Red Hill, Alabama. Well, coming up in 30 seconds, we take another look at your upcoming forecast, but we're also going to take an extra look at some significant weather events that happened across the globe over the weekend. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Another work day, another school day. Here's a look at that bus stop forecast for your Tuesday. Not too shabby. We could wake up to some patchy fog around central Alabama, especially near those larger bodies of water. Areas that saw a little bit of wet weather today, you'll likely see that better chance for some patchy fog development. Not super concerned about it, but just wanted to put that on your radar. There could be some decreased visibility early in the day tomorrow morning. By 7 a.m., lots of sunshine, low 60s, light easterly wind. Winds will start to shift out of the north, though. Northwest as we bring in the afternoon and late Tuesday afternoon. That's that drier air that's going to be filtering in for us. Temperatures tomorrow still heating up pretty warm, mid to upper 80s all across central Alabama. Beautiful day to get outdoors. You don't need to pack the umbrella or the rain jacket. We'll see a few passing clouds here or there, but really lots of sunshine is in store. Well, taking you around the world now to the northern Mexico, where tropical storm Ileana made landfall on Friday. The Mexican National Meteorological Service warning residents of torrential rains and, again, those gusty winds. It left the streets covered in mud and brought flash flooding, too. Saturday brought the last of the heavy rain, thankfully, for that area. But in Poland, flooding hitting a historic town as some of the heaviest rain in years passed through Central and Southern Europe. Rising waters flooded at river embankment as well as other streets and homes. The Polish Prime Minister says one person is presumed dead from those floods in the southwest. Communication and energy supplies were also severed in some flooded regions. And as red alerts are still in effect for places ranging from Poland to Austria, Jacob Riha reports from Opava, where the biggest concern for residents now is cleaning up.
Overnight from Sunday to Monday, the water level got really low. At its peak, it was as high as I am standing right now. I can tell that because on the buildings in this street, you can see some marks how high the water got. So the biggest concern for most of the people here in Opava will be cleaning up the mess. The city believes that they have the worst behind, but they don't want to say that with certainty. So if the water gets really low, we should be able to see some cleaning. You know, for some people, the mud got into their stores, their apartment. Some of the things are ruined, but it seems that Opava could do better from now on, but it's not the case for every part of the Czech Republic.
Well, back here in the States, we take a trip to Irving, Texas, where Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt catches up with our sister station out of Arkansas as they talk about the weather patterns they typically see during the secondary severe weather season.
For us, it's not only the fall, it's the winter also. Some of our worst tornadoes, you know, the big long-range tornado that went from Arkansas all the way up through Kentucky was in December, and then one of our worst outbreaks ever was in January of 1999, and that lasted 2 days. We had over 60 tornadoes in Arkansas, and that's January. That's not something you would typically associate with severe weather season. But yeah, we get the bump in November, but I tell people all the time, there's really not a break for us. I guess you could say June and July, but then you're watching the tropics also, and you'd think, well, you're in Arkansas, you don't see the tropics too much either, but we do. If something hits into Houston, Lake Charles, Louisiana, something like that, it comes up and impacts us also.
And that was Chief Meteorologist Kate there from Arkansas. But still ahead on First Alert Weather Extra, we continue to talk about the week's drier weather. Plus, if you blink, you may miss it. This means we're also taking a quick look at the vital process for your eyes and your moment of science. Don't go anywhere. You're watching First Alert Weather Extra, and we'll be right back. All right, everyone, welcome back in. Here's a look at our First Alert AccuTrack satellite and radar. Still seeing those showers in West Alabama. A little isolated shower down there in Coosa County. That's the only shower that I'm seeing in East Alabama right now. But if you have any plans and you're still in West Alabama throughout this evening, I would still just pack the umbrella and rain jacket just to be on the safe side. As we zoom in here, you'll notice that a lot of that rain is really on along I-2059. A few showers down in South Tuscaloosa County. But most of that wet weather is in the southern portions of Perry Erie County, Hale, and even Greene County towards the city of Forkland and Demopolis. So giving you that first alert. Temperatures right now very nice all across the area. 70s, low 80s. I mean, you really can't beat it. 78 in Tuscaloosa, 77 there in Jasper, 80 degrees in Alabaster, 80 degrees in Birmingham. If you have any plans this evening, we'll stay fairly warm to mild conditions. Upper 60s just around 11 p.m. 9 o'clock, low 70s, but mostly in the 70s throughout your evening. Upper 70s just around 7 p.m. We're getting close to that 7 o'clock hour. Light easterly winds throughout your evening. We'll see those northerly winds coming about tomorrow, but I really just want to remind you that tomorrow morning we could see some patchy fog early in the day. By 7 a.m., mostly sunny skies, low 60s to get you out the door. A light easterly wind, east-northeast wind if you really want to be technical, but starting to shift more out of the north as we approach your afternoon and late Tuesday afternoon. That's that drier air that's going to bring us more settled weather and lots of sunshine, mid to upper 80s tomorrow afternoon, by the late afternoon. So a pretty hot day tomorrow. Stay hydrated, wear your sunscreen. Here's a full look at that super 7-day forecast. We're watching temperatures over the next several days, highs there in the 80s, overnight temps in the 60s, and again, lots of sunshine, so make those outdoor plans. But it's a science lesson you can measure in milliseconds. Dan Smith has the background of blinking our eyes. Boy, that was a wink. In your moment of science.
It helps your Boy, that's creepy. It helps your vision, keeps your eyes watered, and is completely involuntary, except when you're thinking too hard about it. This week, we're exploring how much really happens in the blink of an eye. It all happens thanks to your orbicularis oculi, the fastest muscles in your body. The average human blinks around 15 times a minute, though dry eyes, allergies, and the like can certainly up that number, and intense focus like reading, staring at your computer, or a staring contest can lower it. Infants also only blink a couple times a minute, likely since they have smaller eyelids, get more sleep, and don't produce tears for about the first month or so of their life. The main function of blinking is to keep your eyes nice and moisturized, spreading tears across your cornea to help remove dust, dirt, and other irritants like dead cells and dried tears. Those tears also fight bacteria with lysozyme, a natural antibiotic, and deliver oxygen, even though blood vessels don't quite reach the surface of your cornea. You've essentially got three types of blinks to work with. Spontaneous, your typical unconscious variety. Voluntary, pretty straightforward there. And reflex, reacting to things like the sun getting in your eyes, or a baseball whizzing by, or even your friend going, "Think fast." Speaking of fast, the actual time a blink takes runs a few hundred milliseconds, although the reflex blinks are a bit faster by necessity. There's also evidence that blinking improves how our brains process images through our retina, even though our eyes are closed for a fraction of a second. Think of it like an extra screenshot of a video that you can barely follow. How about the animal kingdom? Well, some animals like tortoises and even hamsters blink each eye independently, though it's not exactly a conscious wink like we can do. It's thought that it might be to keep at least one eye open for predators at all times. Predators like snakes. They don't blink since they don't have eyelids, though clear scales cover each eye to keep them hydrated, and yes, they even regenerate those scales when they shed. Many mammals, birds, and fish have a similar mechanism called a nictitating membrane, and it's not just fun to say. It acts like a backup windshield to sweep away dirt and debris, which especially comes in handy for birds diving down to catch their prey. There's no set amount a human should blink, of course, just an average, though if you feel you're doing it too often or not enough, eye drops and computer breaks are always good fallbacks. For this week's Moment of Science, I'm Dan Smith.
Well, don't go anywhere. I'm meteorologist Tania Michelle, and we'll be right back with a final check on your weather and a look at some of your weather photos that you all have submitted in. We'll show them right here. Don't miss it. That's after the break. right, everyone, welcome in. You know we love to show off your lovely viewer pictures. This one from Josh Burnham. This was a sunset over Pell City. And this one from Leslie Rushing, a sunset over Rushing Farms. Oh, beautiful. That must be her farm. That's her last name. And Debbie Reed, sunset on Highland Lake. All these beautiful pink skies, like you all were looking up at the same site there, taking pictures of it. Sandra Martin sent this one, and this is actually a sunrise. And this was in Aniana. That's Blount County. Beautiful picture there. Love how those clouds really make those sunrises and sunsets even more gorgeous. And last but not least, Janet Hanley. That picture was from Pigeon Forge. Absolutely beautiful. She caught it like she was driving into it. Oh, I love it. Please continue to send in those photos, guys. We love to share them. Don't forget to have your kids color the weather so they can send those pictures too. Take a long final look at that Super 7-day forecast. Not a whole lot going on this week, and guess what? I'm not mad at it. We'll have forecast updates tonight, first at 9. Have a wonderful evening.